Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Crazy Tech Reviews. And in today's episode, or in the last episode, we actually started working on the Macintosh Classic. Now, this is one of the first machines that was in my collection, and so I'm glad to finally at least try to get it working now. So anyway, we started working on this machine. We cleaned off the case, which is what I'm holding right now. As you can see, there's nothing inside at the moment, we fixed a little crack down here at the bottom, or at least tried to. So in today's episode, the CRT and the floppy drive is supposed to come in about an hour, within the next hour and a half. So hopefully that'll be here soon, and we're gonna get cracking at trying to finally fix this machine up to be fully functional. So anyway, with that said, let's go ahead and get started.
Figured I'd show you guys my setup right now at the moment. As you can see, it's pretty bad. Anyway, there is still some problems with the analog board that I'm worried about, but that's not a big deal. And there's also a ton of leaky caps in that, but it seems to be working just fine. The hard drive doesn't seem to spin up, so I'm probably going to tap it later and see if it breaks, the head's loose or something. Anyway, the disk drive and CRT came, so we'll go ahead and bring that in and start unboxing it. This was packed really well. It took ages to completely unpack. It took like 16 minutes. But anyway, I'll just go ahead and cut through the tape and open up the box here. As you can see, all the other items are packed into separate boxes, which is how you should how you should pack stuff. Now we'll go ahead and remove the CRT box and set it back behind so that it doesn't get damaged. I'm going to go ahead and start by opening the disk drive, since it's probably the less exciting of the two items to unbox. And yeah, anyway, this was packed very nicely. It was just kind of wrapped in this little box here, and then packed in some bubble wrap. And here's the drive. This is a 1.44 megabyte drive. And we'll go ahead and lift out the CRT here after removing all the packing stuff. But anyway, it came out rather nicely. My mom apparently decided she would help me lift the CRT out of the box, but whatever. And get that box out of the way, and as you can see, there's still a little piece of foot packing bubble on there. Anyway, this is a Samsung tube, so it's different than the other tube that was previously in the machine. Anyway, we'll go ahead and install the new disk drive and screw it in. And I'll proceed to continue to reinstall the parts of this machine, and then finally, after installing the logic board in, we'll go ahead and sit in the CRT, the new CRT, which is definitely a lot different than the original CRT that was in this machine, which was made by a different company. And when we turn it on, unfortunately, we get this checkerboard pattern. Now, I'm not sure if you guys remember in last episode when I checked the board for leaky caps, but essentially these 90s Macs are notorious for leaky caps, and essentially basically what happens is the electrolyte from the caps leaks all over the board and therefore sorts out traces, causing the computer to not start correctly, and I believe that's what's causing this checker pattern on the screen. So with that, I went ahead and pulled out the logic board to check, and sure enough, there is a massive puddle of leaky cap juices all over the motherboard. So I decided I'd start by cleaning some of it off with isopropyl alcohol. And sure enough, that didn't seem to do anything, so I proceeded then to clean it off with some dish soap and a toothbrush, which is what I looked up online, and that said it would work, or should work. I also tapped a hard drive since I was in there to see if I could get that to spin up, but sure enough, still have the same pattern there. Alright, so it's been a few weeks since I've last worked on this project, and I had seen Adrian's Digital Basement's latest video on his Macs, and in that video he soaked the board in dish soap to remove the electrolyte. And also, if you're wondering why I'm working over at this desk, it's because my other desk has my computer on it at the time of this recording, and I was too lazy to move it. So anyway, we'll go ahead and disassemble the machine once again so that we can get to the logic board, and I'll go ahead and remove out that stunk and clip again, which fell out. Or disconnected from the anode cup, and we'll also remove the CRT yoke board so that we can not break the tube again. Also go ahead and disconnect all the hard drive and floppy drive connectors, and the board should slide out. Alright, so as I mentioned earlier in the episode, the reason we were likely getting that checkerboard or chessboard pattern likely had to do with the electrolytic caps leaking, or these SMT capacitors leaking all over the logic board. Now, that can cause the computer to not boot up correctly, as I mentioned earlier in the episode. And I've noticed, too, that this cap appears to be dented in. That could possibly be part of the problem, too. Another thing is that I'm afraid I didn't quite remove all the electrolytic fluid that possibly leaked on this board. So what I'm probably going to do tomorrow, which I'll show you in the video, is I'm probably going to soak the entire board in water and soapy water. And hopefully what that will do is that will clear out the residual electrolytic cap juice. So anyway, with that, let's go ahead and do that.
Alright, so as you saw in the last clip, we disassembled the Macintosh Classic again, and I removed the logic board, or otherwise known as the motherboard, out of the machine. And there's really no difference between the two, it's just that Apple likes to call these logic boards, I guess. Anyway, as you saw in some previous clips, I made some attempts at removing the electrolytic fluid from the surface of the board. Now, it didn't work, as you saw, but some people have tried putting these boards in dishwashers, and while that works, I don't and it's not that I doubt it, it's just that I don't really want to put this in the dishwasher necessarily. I don't want to make anything any worse than it is, even though it's probably completely safe. But anyway, I've also noticed in the last few clips that there is a dented in capacitor on the board, right here, and that could be probably non-functional, which even if the electrolytic fluid is removed could cause the board to not function correctly as intended. Now, I know this hasn't been leaking for too long. It must have started sometime within the last 2 years or so, because when I got this machine, even though I couldn't tell that the CRT was working, or that it was working from the CRT, since the CRT, as you can see, is completely busted, but I did hear a beep, and the machine otherwise booted up correctly, I'm pretty sure. So I'm guessing that these probably aren't in too bad a shape yet, other than the dented in one. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to inspect this board to see if there's any more remaining electrolytic fluid that I can visibly see with my eyes, and then I'm probably gonna submerge this board in soapy water and hope that gets rid of it. So we'll go ahead and do that.
Alright, so I'm just going to use one of these cheap little flimsy plastic drawers that you can find in cabinets all over, like Target and stuff. I filled up in my bathroom sink this time instead of the kitchen sink because it was the closest sink to my studio room, and I did not want to spill this water everywhere. Anyway, with that taken care of, I'll go ahead and add in a few little custard cups somewhat full of dish soap just to remove the capacitor juice, and then I'll go ahead and mix it up with my fingers just to make sure it's thoroughly coated in there with the water. I'll go ahead and remove what I'm pretty sure is the SCSI controller, and then I'll go ahead and insert the board into the water, or soapy water. I'm shaking it around so that I can not only remove bubbles but submerge it good, and then I also use a toothbrush to help with the process of removing all the electrolytic fluid.
Alright, so it's been maybe 15 or 20 minutes or so since I last checked on this. One thing I just want to mention is that if this does happen to restore the machine to where we can at least see it work, it will not be a permanent fix, because eventually the caps will leak again. And honestly, I'm not even sure though if even if I do get rid of all the fluid from the caps that has leaked onto the board, if it will actually turn on still. But I'm just giving it a shot because I figure it won't hurt anyway, because I'm going to have to do this anyway. But anyway, there's definitely a lot of gunk in the water now. It's probably just dust and dirt from the board, and the board does look really clean now. So I'm definitely sure that this will probably remove all the residual electrolyte fluid, or whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. Anyway, I don't want to leave it in here for too long, and I've come periodically and scrubbed it down with a toothbrush, like I showed in the last clip. But yeah, I don't want to leave it under here for too long because I'm afraid it will start to corrode the metal. I'm not sure how long it will take, probably a few hours or days even probably for that to start to happen, but I'm not taking any chances. And then what I'm going to do after this is once this is done, I'm going to spray it off. I'm going to spray it off with the hose and I'm going to blow it off with the air compressor. So anyway, I guess we'll just wait a few more minutes. I'll probably scrub it a few more times, and then we'll go ahead and clean it off the soapy water and empty that out somehow. Alright, I just figured I'd go ahead and show you how much cleaner this board is. It's pretty impressive. You can see all the dust that came out in the water, and I guess I'll just go ahead and scrub it a few more times just to remove all that residual capacitor juice. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and take the board out now. It's been long enough, and I think it's going to be okay. I'm going to go ahead and pour out the water too, and then after that I'll go ahead and just rinse off all the extra soap out of the connectors and off of the PCB and everything, just so it doesn't stay on there. And then I'll blow it out with the air compressor just to make sure it's nice and clean. And then after that I'll go ahead and reinstall the IC I removed earlier in the video. Alrighty, so here is the finished product. I sprayed this off multiple times, so hopefully there's not too much, hopefully there is not too much or any water on the actual PCB itself, or mineral deposits or anything that would occur from that, like rust or anything like that, that hopefully won't happen either. Yeah, anyway, I sprayed this off multiple times with the air compressor, as I showed in the last clip, and this is the finished package, I guess. It does look a lot cleaner than before, and hopefully I've removed all, if not the majority, of the remaining electrolytic fluid. If it still doesn't work after all of that, then it's probably just some problem with the capacitors not having or being able to hold the right amount of electricity or filter the electricity however they would normally, which likely means that they're going to have to be replaced to even see the thing work. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully I can at least know that this machine will power on. And yeah, so I guess with that we'll go ahead and put it back in the machine and see if it works. Alright, so at this point I should just be able to plug everything back in and we should be able to test to make sure the thing works. And unfortunately, sure enough, it doesn't work. Alright, so it's been about 24 hours since I last filmed the last clip in this video. And honestly, it was kind of disappointing that after all that, nothing turned on, but I wasn't expecting it to work that well anyway, so big deal. Anyway, I asked around on a few Reddit threads, or Reddit, whatever they're called, Reddit channels, and I asked around about my problem, and it turns out that that's likely something to do with both not only the motherboard capacitors, or the capacitors on the logic board, but also the capacitors on the analog board. And if you remember from part 1, which I'm probably going to take down because the clips are all out of order and somehow something got whacked up in the editor, you can clearly see, I even pointed out there was a lot of leaky residue on the analog board. Now, I didn't pay too much attention to that at the time because everything seemed to power on, but apparently there are some issues with it. So also, I was able to find a capacitor kit on the web, and so I'm probably going to have to order that, and I'm probably going to have to replace the caps. So anyway, guess we'll go ahead and do that. Okay, so I'm about to do some testing here. Essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to check the output from the 5-volt DC connector on the hard drive. This should tell me if the voltage supply from the analog board is proper. So we'll go ahead and find that connector, and then we'll hook it up to the multimeter, and sure enough, we're not receiving the right amount of voltage. We're only receiving 4.5 volts, so we'll continue to test the 12 volts, and we're getting positive 11.5 for some reason. Alright, so unfortunately I'm going to have to end this episode off right here because first of all, I want to be able to push this episode out sooner, and it would probably be at least another few weeks until you'd see this if I had to do the recapping of the board and of the boards and everything in this episode. And I've been trying to make shorter episodes as well, so that I can not only produce more easily, but I can make people stick around longer, because the 55 or whatever it was minute part 2 of the Macintosh Plus restoration, that was way too long, and I don't think too many people watched all the way through that one. So anyway, I think around 15 minutes is good, a good time for an episode, maybe 20 max. So also, I hope you guys have been liking my new editor. That's called VSDC, for any of you who are wondering. It's just a free editing program, but it's actually rather nice, definitely much better than what I was using previously. Anyway though, the next episode is going to be me recapping, or somebody somehow recapping this board, and finally, hopefully, getting this machine working. And then I'm planning on doing a video or two after that, as just an overview of kind of the history, some of the history behind this and the Macintosh Classic, and like actually using one and how it works and everything. That would kind of be like redoing the history and review of the Macintosh Classic episode, or the Classic Macintosh episode that I did a while back that was just kind of crappy. So anyway, I'm sorry, I've probably been rambling on too much in this intro. So anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next video.